Hey, guys, happy Thursday afternoon. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Double Shot of Steelers. It comes your way at 4 p.m., generally speaking, Eastern time. It's live. It's on our YouTube channel. It's on our app and a website at DK Pittsburgh Sports for a short time. It's going to be like for another month or so. It'll be on all kinds of social media platforms. That's going to change. It's just going to be the two. It's just going to be YouTube and us before long. And it's great to have you here. It's great to be within 13 days of reporting date, exactly 12 days out from the first practice. Wait, did I get that backward? No, today is the exact 2-week mark from the first full practice on Chuck Noll Field out there in Latrobe. And we're looking forward to that. A lot. We're going to talk about what I consider to be the draft effect. And by the draft, I'm not referring to any draft that's already occurred, but rather the next one. The next one. That's what I'm looking at. 2026. I'm looking at what's going on with hey, somebody's very helpful out there and friendly and loud. What was that?
To say hi.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought. Oh, okay. Okay, cool. I got all distracted by it here. What were we talking about? The draft, the 2026 draft. And see, that's the thing when we leave the place open, whatever, anybody can just walk in and out. It's, it's just part of the live program.
Customers, they love to say hi.
She's a customer.
Yeah.
Okay. I just get somebody coming in and all right. So anyway, 2026 NFL draft. Omar Khan has all these picks. He did not give them up in what turned out to be a very, very, very big trade in both directions, meaning Minkah Fitzpatrick going to Miami and obviously Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith coming to Pittsburgh. One of the more common criticisms that I've heard, and there aren't that many criticisms in the first place, is why did you give up anything? Why did you give up Minkah at all? Why couldn't you just keep Minkah and hand the Dolphins a bunch of draft picks? Well, the obvious answer there is that it takes two to make a trade, and maybe the Dolphins just didn't want picks. You can't just tell the other team what it is that they're going to take. And the other part is maybe he really does want to hang on to them. Maybe he really does see the 2026 draft, the one that's right across the river, as being something of value, of something that's important to the team. And I don't mean from the Pittsburgh sense. I mean, where the draft is, I know everyone is going to think that it's going to be some bigger deal for the Steelers. It's not. You're looking for your future franchise quarterback. You don't care if the draft is being conducted on the moon. It's not going to make any difference at all. So we're going to talk with Chris Halleck about that when we come back. I want to get your thoughts on it as well. Do you feel like Omar is legitimately collecting assets? Is he holding on to those assets? Or did he just happen to stumble upon them, because Dan Moore signed somewhere else? Do you see what I'm saying here? Is there more to that story? We'll deal with Chris when we come back.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Wait a second. How does Brent Haynes know it's our anniversary? How does that happen? Do you know Brent Haynes? Huh? He's first thing comes up is happy anniversary. How would he know it's our anniversary? Well, it's our anniversary anyway, according to Brent Haynes, and Brent happens to be accurate. So if he was taking a 1 out of 365 guess, he nailed it. Hi, Chris. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Happy anniversary.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. He also came in and dropped 5 gifts on the process. We appreciate that. Let's talk about draft picks here. That everything's throwing me on this show. You know, first the regular customer's like, from the door, and then Brent Haynes knows our anniversary. Brent, you're going to have to explain this. He says, because it's my birthday. Oh, he might remember from references in the past. I see. Okay, well, that mystery solved. This live episode of Double Shot.
Happy birthday, Brent.
That solved this live episode of Double Shot of Steelers. This rather chaotic episode of Double Shot of Steelers is brought to you by Dazzle Sports, a premier source for sports memorabilia, from the National Football League to Major League Baseball and everything in between. Autographed memorabilia from your favorite athletes, including jerseys, photos, game-used items. You can also find cards and collectibles. Show them some love. They're part of our family now. Get 20% off on your entire order. Use the code DOUBLESHOT. Use it as one word at checkout at www.dazzle-sports.com. Dazzle Sports isn't just a store. It's where sports memories come to life. Chris, you've been a pretty vocal proponent of Omar Khan's approach to holding on to draft picks, to getting the draft picks, to, I don't want to call it hoarding because that sounds negative, and it doesn't have to be negative. But where is his mindset, would you think, heading into 2026? Is it, I'm just going to get as many of these picks as possible and throw them all in the same basket to move up to get my, superstar quarterback, or what?
Well, I mean, it's definitely about just acquiring as many assets as possible. And I think, a GM's job is to not only forecast what's going to happen after the, in the next offseason, but in 2 off seasons from now and 3 off seasons from now. And I think when Omar first took this job, he begins to forecast. He begins to look at, okay, this is what might happen. Oh, by the way, this year we have a lot of expiring contracts, and maybe it's a circumstance where we want to re-sign a guy. Maybe it's a circumstance where we don't, and we want to let somebody walk. And when Najee Harris's 5th-year option gets declined and everybody's kind of flabbergasted about it, then you begin to look at, he was just one of several free agents that ended up all just happening to leave in the same year so that they can get a whole bunch of contracts.
Dude, you think a lot of this. Okay.
So
I'm not disputing it. Just I'd love to hear it.
No, this is why I don't think this is just, hey, we happened to stumble upon some 4 compensatory picks. No, this is a well-conceived plan by Omar Khan. Now, the one thing that people keep pointing out, and correctly so, is that you can't just trade 9 draft picks to go move up in the first round, because not all draft picks obviously equal the same. And if the Steelers do have the plan, and I believe they do, have the plan to move up to get a franchise quarterback, whether it's next season or whether it's the year after, whenever it is, they are going to have to give up a future first to do it, or they're going to have to be really bad.
Oh,
maybe,
sure.
Maybe they'll be really bad this year. Yeah.
Maybe multiples, Chris. I mean, that's life.
Yeah.
Look at, what was it? Was it the Cleveland Jacksonville trade?
Yeah.
At the draft?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at the price that was paid.
Yeah.
And you can say what you want. I mean, okay, Jacksonville got their guy. They're thrilled. We've seen that. Okay. They think, but my goodness, did they pay?
They paid, and I think they overpaid. Now, the one thing that I would try to
what's his name? Hunter?
Yeah, the new Travis Hunter. Yeah.
Travis Hunter, the two-way player, right? Okay. Yeah. And you look at, I mean, I'm going to find this price here. I'm going to read this out loud.
It was multiple firsts. I know that.
And it wasn't even just to here, Jacksonville Cleveland trade. I'm going to type in here and see what comes. I'm going to read the whole list off here. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. The Jaguars moved up from number 2. They moved up from number 5 to number 2.
Yes. 3 spots.
3 spots, not even to the number 1 spot.
But 3 spots are not equal in the first round.
No, of course not. Of course not. No. Yeah. They're different in every phase of every round.
Yeah.
Okay. But this is the realm we're talking about, Chris. You're talking about go get your franchise quarterback. Here's the price. Jaguars moved up to number 2 to get Travis Hunter. The Browns got, of course, the 5 pick. It was a swap. They also got their 2nd round pick. That was 36th overall. Their 4th round pick, 126. And they got Jacksonville's 2026 first rounder, which I'm laying odds will be a pretty good pick, considering it's the Jaguars. And then the Browns swapped back a couple others to try to balance this out. 2025 4th rounder, a 6th rounder, whatever. But basically what you're talking about is 2 firsts.
Yeah.
Just to move up from 5 to 2.
Now, that's why, okay, well, where are the Steelers going to try to trade up to if they do? Let's just say they are picking about the same spot that they've been picking. Let's just say they go, they make the playoffs and lose in the first round again. Be par for the course, right? So they'd be picking probably 21st, 22nd, somewhere around that spot. If they had to trade up to 8th to go get a quarterback, I mean, you could look. I think what the Chiefs gave up to go get Mahomes is a little bit more realistic than what the Jaguars gave up to move to the 2nd overall pick, even though it was only 3 spots.
Once it happens, you know how that goes. It's set there.
Yeah.
It's the precedent.
Right.
Well, look what Cleveland got. Why are we taking less?
Right. But yeah. So for those
firsts, for sure, we agree on that. It's 2 firsts.
Well, so I'm still under the impression. So if you are not trying to trade into the top 5, I don't think you necessarily have to give up 2 future firsts. You can probably give up just 1.
Okay.
But you'd have to, again, I'll go to the Chiefs trade when they traded from 27 to 10 to go get Mahomes. They gave up a future first and then the current 3rd in that year. So that was the price. Now, maybe now it's a future first and 2 thirds. Or it's a future first and a 2nd and a 3rd, or whatever. I don't know. But that's why you stack up all these picks, because then if you do have to trade 2 thirds, well, guess what? The Steelers right now are in line to have 3, because they right now own 2, their own and the one they got from the Cowboys in the George Pickens trade. And then they're going to get at least 1 more for Dan Moore signing with the Titans. It could end up being even another 3rd if Justin Fields plays enough snaps and plays well. It could even be another 3rd if Russell Wilson earns all of his incentives and plays well. I'm not going to count on that stuff, but
right.
You never know.
Jack Long says, assuming the Steelers get their future franchise quarterback next year. By the way, we're not burying Will Howard here. Okay, Will Howard won a national championship. He'll have his opportunities, okay? And he'll have his chance to go and show everybody, wow, hey, maybe we have him right here. It might not happen right away. It might be next summer. It might be preseason games. Who knows? Yeah. But Jack says, assuming the Steelers get their future guy next year, isn't it likely that he's not inserted as the starting quarterback and that Mason Rudolph will have to drive the bus until the franchise quarterback is ready? Obviously, we're getting way ahead of everything here, and we're throwing all kinds of hypotheticals into the mix, but it is worth underscoring here especially for anybody who doesn't know, that I think the Steelers could have had Mason for 1 year, meaning as a contract. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. Omar went to Mason, and his initial offer to Mason was for 2 years. So that tells me a little bit of something about the Steelers not necessarily wanting to go through the whole changing of the entire room year after year after year. Does that make sense?
Oh, 1,000%.
So now you would enter into a 2026 where your quarterbacks are Mason, Will Howard, another young option, and draft pick kid.
Yeah.
Okay, meaning next year's draft pick kid. And now you have a room that's got somebody who knows the whole Steelers thing and everything else, and who, if you needed, can be your starter, et cetera. Does that line up for you?
Yeah, obviously, yeah, because first off, Will Howard will definitely be there because he'll be on his second year of his rookie contract. And then, like you said, Mason Rudolph was signed to a 2-year deal. Aaron Rodgers is only a 1-year deal, and he's already even publicly said that this very well could be his last season. Obviously, we have yet to see how the season plays out, because you can say a lot of things in July and August, like the Steelers were saying, like those in the front office and higher up were saying last July and August, oh, we're definitely going to, pursue Russell Wilson to re-sign. And then a whole season played out and they're like, yeah, never mind. So
I don't think it took that long.
No, but a season will change a lot when it comes to how you approach next offseason. So what happens in 2025 does matter, but the idea that could be the quarterback room in 2026 is very, very plausible.
Chris says, do you think that if Will Howard impresses at training camp, meaning the one that's coming up, and the preseason games, the Steelers will still move up in next year's draft to get a quarterback? The Steelers are going to get another young quarterback. Will Howard can tear apart the world in the next 2 months, and they're going to do that. Now, I hate to keep being the one that dumps water on this, okay, because the kid is great and the kid has the bright future in front of him and everything. But this idea that keeps getting thrown out there that he can do something in 2025 is not a sentiment that is shared by the people running the actual football team. Now, they might be right, they might be wrong, but it's going to be their call. Okay. Mm-hmm. And if they see something, they're not going to allow it to play out. They're not going to rush the kid. They're certainly not going to rush him when he's a clear number 3 on the depth chart. So I'm not knocking. I was the one that brought him up today. I'm not exempting Will Howard from anything. Everybody's got to chill here a little bit.
Yeah, there is a reason why the one thing that we do see, and we talked about it recently with the way Pittsburgh views Mike Tomlin versus everybody else views Mike Tomlin. People in Pittsburgh right now are viewing Will Howard in a very favorable way, and the league told you that Will Howard was a 6th-round pick. That also means the Steelers told you that Will Howard is a 6th-round pick. They could have taken him in the 1st or the 2nd or the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th.
You're bringing up Tom Brady, you're only fortifying the point because he's 1 in a million.
Yeah. So the only way that I think the Steelers would, by next draft, dedicate that type of commitment to Will Howard is if, for whatever reason, he ends up playing a lot of football and regular season games this year and shows something in those games. That would be the only way, in my opinion.
Yeah, but these scenarios are pretty far-fetched. I think we can agree on that here, too.
Right.
And we can start mentioning some of the names next year. Arch Manning isn't going to be alone up there. Drew Aller is not going to be alone up there. There's going to be a bunch of guys, and there's an entire college football season to be played out. I mean, there's a long, long way to go in terms of, who takes a step forward, who takes a step back, who gets hurt. Hate to say that, but
who doesn't even come out of college next year? Arch Manning might not even come out of college.
Yeah, he'll come out of that money, man. I'm sorry. Not that the Manning family needs cash, but and then Pie Guy brings up the scenario that what if Aaron Rodgers changes his mind about retiring? I don't see that happening. I don't see. I'm trying to think of examples where somebody would just state right up front, I think that this is my last year, and then would change their mind at season's end. Ben would don't confuse, but Ben would throw little hints and stuff, but Ben never meant it. I don't think Ben meant it at the end. Ben didn't mean it until he did that lap over at the stadium.
Yeah,
I think that was when, and even then, he's probably thinking as he's on his way down the tunnel, like, I got one more in me.
Yeah. Now I'm trying to remember, because obviously Jerome Bettis came really close to retiring after 2004 and then came back for 2005. And obviously, we know the story, but you would remember better than I would. Was Jerome contemplating, like openly and publicly contemplating retirement before 2004? Okay.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Then that would be the only example I could possibly think of, because it's very well documented how close he came to actually retiring after the 2004 season when they went 15-1 and lost in the AFC Championship. And then he obviously came back, and then Hines Ward was bawling thinking that Jerome was done.
Yeah, they had some coaxing and community bonding over it and commitment, and we're going to get this for you. And then they went and, of course, got it. Levi Smith drops 20 gifts on us. Appreciate that.
Yeah,
Levi, that's very kind. Jay Mood says getting $5 million a year to party with co-ed seems like the dream as a man in his early 20s. Now, behave yourself over there. My guess is that if you're an NFL quarterback, you probably don't struggle in that area.
Probably not.
Whether you're in college or whether you're being paid a gazillion dollars, you probably do okay in terms of your social life. Damien says, if Slash was coming out of college now, he'd be a number 1 overall pick. Cordell Stewart could do, check the boxes. I mean, he did. I mean, he could do anything, and he had the arm that could, he could throw the ball pretty much the length of the football field. It was insane. Cordell could do anything. Cordell, and he'll be the first one to tell you this, was just born at the wrong time, man.
Yeah,
he came into the league at the wrong time. He is a 2025 quarterback. Very much so. Way ahead of his time, says Mr. Wanderer there. Michael Barnett says, DK, I think you're going to be proved wrong with Arch. I didn't make a prediction. The Mannings want him to be a 3-year starter before the NFL. Yeah, the Mannings want. I mean, this isn't Leave It to Beaver. I mean, you're not going to tell him, hey, Beav, you need to behave. And this is, come on. These are grown-ups.
Yeah.
It's gonna be his call.
We can try to go back to when Peyton and Eli both came out on their own, but it was a completely different time. The NIL has changed so much about college sports, and I mean, there are now first round picks or potential first overall picks are a little bit different from this, but there are so many players coming out of college that, or could come out of college, that will make more money if they stay in college than if they go to the NFL.
Oh, jeez.
And so
because of entry level,
yeah. So like that hasn't, now again, for somebody like Arch Manning, but if Arch Manning doesn't have the season that he wants to have at Texas, he may want to stay and improve his draft stock so he can be a first overall pick.
Well, okay, but going to the NFL, even if you're just serving as a backup, or you're, look, if you're a 1 or a 2 overall, you're gonna play.
Yeah.
All right. They're not gonna be sitting you. Okay, that's just weird.
Right.
You get a head start on your NFL career. There's a value unto that itself. Okay, you're only going to be an NFL rookie once. If you're going to be that in 2026 or 2027, you might as well get started earlier to have a better NFL career, because news for you, your NFL career isn't going to last forever. It's still a finite window.
Yeah.
So I have a really hard time believing that anybody would hang around and beat up on a bunch of college teams over getting to the NFL. Maybe that's just me here. Damon King drops 5 gifts on us as well. Captain Crunch wants to know if Chris has gotten to play college football 26 yet. Is that what EA's calling the video game?
Yeah, it's not called NCAA anymore, but I have. It is like
they dropped NCAA.
Yeah,
really?
It's not.
It's not bad, huh?
No, well, no. So it came back. Like the only way it comes back is if they have the licensing for all the stuff and player likeness. Like players are getting now, like their likeness is in the game now, because it used to not be like way back in the day. The video games, it used to be QB. What number was Tim Tebow for Florida? Whatever number he was, it was QB number, whatever it was, and or 15 QB 15 for Florida, and there were no names. Well, now it's players' names, their likeness, everything like that is in the games, and they're getting paid for it. But last year's game was the first game in like over a decade. It was phenomenal, probably the best video game that EA has come out with in probably in over a decade. And this year's game so far, I've only gotten to play a little bit. I've been busy trying to get ready for training camp and this upcoming weekend where I'm covering the All-Star week, but so far it's very, very good. I love it.
CJ Nilsson says, isn't it possible for the comp picks that are coming for Russell Wilson and Justin Fields to move up to earlier rounds depending on incentive pay and stuff this season? Yes, The answer to that is yes. So the Steelers' stockpile of drafts can become that much more explosive over time. And you should, other than when the Steelers are facing either of those quarterbacks, hope that they do really well.
Yeah.
That's just how that goes.
Yeah. So the compensatory formula is very convoluted, and there are few who really, really understand it. But the big things that that factor into what round those end up being are salary, playing time, like number of snaps, performance, playoffs, awards, like so many different things. So yes, the better that Justin Fields and Russell Wilson do for their respective teams, meaning that they hit all like the most amount of salary they possibly can, the most amount of snaps they can possibly play, and if they perform well, those could be even better picks than what they are now, which right now I think Fields is projected to be a 4th and Russell Wilson's projected to be a 5th according to overthecap.com. So we'll see. Obviously, those aren't handed out until next March, I don't think, but it does depend on how they perform in the season.
Brian George asks the most memorable training camp moment that I can recall. Unfortunately, this one's a little bit too easy, and it has very little to do with football. But on the field, if you're referring to the Steelers and not anything having to do with me, because I have a separate one for myself. On the field, it was when the Steelers were going through a big stretch right there on Chuck Noll Field, and there's the usual 4,000 to 5,000 people in the seats, and there's a group of really, really young people standing with us on the sideline, and I didn't recognize them, but I was told where they were from. They were from Pro Football Focus, which was at the time a fledgling operation, okay? And they were not very popular with the athletes, okay, because their grading system then as now has major flaws, and not to mention a major pro-Ohio bias for, I guess, because that's where Chris Collins, I don't know, okay. And one gentleman stood up in the middle of that field, stood up and said in the direction of those children, "Y'all grading system sucks." And the players roared. And the person who was the one who stood up in the pasture like a scarecrow there to terrorize those children was none other than,
I don't know. This was not.
Somebody's got to guess it.
I don't know this story.
Somebody's got to guess it. Paulie wins. It was our own Ramon.
Funny.
Yo, rating system suck. It was Ramon. Does you remember it?
That's awesome.
You cannot beat the big ragu in a team setting. Unbelievable stuff there. That's he had another one too when Cam Hayward got his, not the most recent extension, but the one before that. And he just yelled out. He did it again. He stood up during stretches. Him and Mike Tomlin are the only two vertical people in the entire setting. And he yells out because there was kind of like the elephant in the room. Nobody was really talking about it. You know, Cam got all this money and everything, and we're all acting like it's not a big deal. And leave it to 73 to stand up and yell out, "Cam got paid!" Went nuts.
That's awesome.
Oh, there's only one of that guy. You can never. Oh yeah, Paulie remembers this one too. That's good stuff here. Captain Crunch wants to know: did Jerome Bettis once drive a bus onto the field or something like that, or was it what? Can't drive a bus onto the field. I mean, it's a field. You kind of need the field. You know, the last thing you're going to be doing is getting on is just putting tire tracks on it here.
Yeah.
I have a couple starred here that I thought were pretty good here. I want to see if I can find them here. This is a comic book question. Damon King drops $5 and says, DK, where does Guy Gardner rank on your list? He's a third string alternate Green Lantern. I have anything to do with this Superman movie because the director has cast the real Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, as some 60-year-old dude on another TV show. It's a long and troublesome story. And I'll leave it right there. I want nothing to do with this film. I really don't. And for that matter, I'm looking at these commercials. Are you excited about this, Chris? I don't know. Did you like them?
No. The last Superman movie I was even a little bit excited about was when Man of Steel was coming out, and that was only because I think wasn't Christopher Nolan like not obviously he didn't direct it, but wasn't he at least a producer on it or something?
On Man of Steel? That was Zack Snyder.
Well, I know Zack Snyder directed it.
Oh, I don't know if Nolan had anything to do with it. I'm more into the comics than I am the movies about the comics. I know that's the backward thing for most. But, I wish all the bad things upon this director for casting a 60-year-old as Hal Jordan, because that just means they're going to either kill him off or turn him into some secondary role. And those of us who are fans of the character are tired of that.
I've actually never asked you, what was your reaction when the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie was coming out?
Well, the funny thing about that movie is it's gotten a bad, obviously a really bad rap in hindsight.
Yeah.
But these idiots, a year later, they issued a director's cut of this film. True story. And you know how usually the director's cut's just a bunch of extraneous stuff that really doesn't add anything,
Yeah.
Like some silly scenes or whatever. These dopes, with the original version of this film, the one that went out to the theaters, they cut out a scene that literally explained the whole movie. It's like doing Gandhi and taking out the scene where Gandhi gets shot. Like you don't know what it's about.
I have not seen the director's cut of the Green Lantern movie, so
if you had seen the movie with that scene, it wouldn't have gotten the reviews that it did. But anyway, that movie ended up hurting the entire thing, including the comic book character, and everything else here. Let's stay on football here. The director's cut, David Harrison says, was 100. Yeah, because it made sense now.
Because I like Ryan Reynolds. I like so much of the stuff he's in, and I thought that he would make a good Hal Jordan, but
I mean, he did fine. She's his wife in real life, right? Blake Lively.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought she was terrific. Carol, they had a brilliant Sinestro with Mark Strong.
Mm-hmm.
They had some of the CGI was crap, but then we can say that about every movie. Everybody complains about CGI, don't they?
Yeah.
It looks like Marvel. Here, well, we're going to close this particular subject with this. The animated show is the best rendition of Green Lantern you will ever see. And it's also the best animated superhero series that's ever been made. I keep it in my phone, all 26 episodes. It didn't get a second season, and watch it nonstop. Absolute masterpiece. Craig wants none of this conversation. Look at Craig. Please stay on football. This is costing me a lot of money, says Craig.
Good stuff.
Okay, no. See, I'm trying to get to football here, and everybody's like, no, and they're like, Frank, shut up, let him talk. Pie Guy asks if we would give Chase Claypool another shot at wide receiver if you were the Steelers. Claypool fits the profile of the wide receiver. He is that type of wide receiver. He is that outside guy. He is no. Okay, no. If you think that he's all of a sudden gonna just grow up, that's not how this stuff happens. There are very, very few examples of that, Chris.
Yeah, no, I am. Not only do I not think that that's a good idea, I don't think that's on the Steelers' radar at all. We've actually been seeing there have been opportunities for the Steelers to bring back guys, and they haven't. And they're typically guys. Well, and if those guys have been any kind of problem, it's been no interest. Like when Deontay Johnson was becoming a free agent, there was some. Well, maybe if he goes back to the Steelers, maybe he'll kind of have this course correction and. Steelers were never interested. They never made him an offer, never did anything. I don't know.
No, and again, to Chris's point, if you think about, who's been available, and one of the guys that we talk about, Chris and I, on a regular basis, is the type of receiver you'd love to see them get is a Deontay Johnson type. Well, guess what? The genuine article was out there, and the genuine article is now stuck on the Cleveland depth chart with no quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So
what are you talking about? They got like 18 of them.
That's true. I take that back. They certainly have quantity. When you look at the need that the Steelers have, and then you look at some of the players that do exist out there, they're not bringing them back, and that's not an accident. So no, I believe that the answer would be no on Claypool. Cody says, not bashing Minka, but someone posted his film of the last 2 years, which is obviously available to anybody. It was like he was in the wrong place all the time. It's like his instincts were off. You know what? You can, Chris, you do this in part for a living. If you want to make somebody look bad in film, you can do that. If you want to make somebody look good in film, okay? The only way to avoid that is to do kind of like this ongoing series that Chris has now of Aaron Rodgers, where you say, you know what, listen, I'm just doing all 17 games and you make up your mind.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But otherwise it's a sampling. I was just doing this myself with the Penguins' most recent NHL draft class, specifically their number one pick, Ben Kindle. And I'm breaking down his video, but I'm doing it off of highlights. Okay. And as opposed to, raw footage. I'm doing it off of highlights. Well, what's going to be on his highlights?
A lot of the highlights, not the low lights.
I mean, I can make a Nola Chari highlight film. No, I can't. I can make Nola Chari look like, like he's Mike Bossy.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. No, the one thing, and I always try to be as transparent as possible whenever I do the Chalk Talk videos, and that is whether I'm doing this Aaron Rodgers series or any other one. I always try to say, listen, if there's a play where I can see what the concept is or what the entire play is, I can say how I know that's normally taught. That doesn't mean that's how the Jets taught it with Aaron Rodgers, or that's how the Steelers teach it, because if I didn't have a player or a coach tell me exactly how it's done, anything at that point is an assumption. Well, normally this play is this guy's the first read, this guy's the second read. Okay, well, normally, but that might not be how that particular team is teaching it. Or on the defensive side, you might be like, well, this safety normally has this zone on this cover. You don't know that for sure. You don't know what the responsibilities are without actually talking to the people. So you can assume, and you should put that out there that you are assuming, but then you can put stuff together and be like, yeah, Minka, his instincts were all off. And for somebody who covered the team last year, watched all the film, watched all the games, talked with the players, instincts weren't an issue with Minka Fitzpatrick. There were some other issues.
Instinct? Are you kidding? Yeah,
no.
Minka. William says, did the Steelers ever try to bring back Juju Smith-Schuster? They did not, but no. I wouldn't confuse that with any perceived character flaws. I mean, Juju's he's a terrific kid. He works his rear end off. There's nothing wrong with him, except that he has an awful lot of emphasis in his life on social media, which isn't exactly a problem for anybody of a certain age. So no, but they didn't. And the reason for that is I would strongly suspect, and as I reported exclusively at the time, Juju was getting his knee drained every Friday for every game. And no.
Yeah.
You find that out, and then you understand why he lost that extra explosive step that he had, when he was a rookie. Michael Vitti comes in with a terrific question. Says, DK, if we found a way to get Jonnu Smith and Jalen Ramsey without getting rid of Minka Fitzpatrick and keeping George Pickens, oh, dude, I think we'd be automatic Super Bowl contenders. I'm going to take the excuse me, the George portion of this and just say that it cannot be overstated. The same way that Chris was describing how video games have changed earlier,
right,
where instead of just being QB 15, it actually becomes a person.
Yeah.
Okay. Tim Tebow, for whatever else you want to say about him, if you go back to his college time, he's a winner. He did exactly what was necessary to win. It's what made him and the whole legend that he became at that time. Well, they didn't then, and they probably don't have now a sufficient grading system for that in the video games. George is not a winner. Understand this. George is thinking about one thing and one person when he's on that field. And it's better to have him gone, but don't take that from either of us. Take that from the rest of the team that didn't want him around. So no, he does not help you win that. I'm going to throw this to you, Chris.
Yeah.
As it relates to Minka, we don't need to keep staying on the Minka defense here as if he's on trial or whatever, because it's crazy to be doing that. He didn't have interceptions. He wasn't as quick as he'd been, whatever else here. Okay. He's still Minka. Why is Justin Simmons still available?
Well, I mean, just from the little bit of homework I've done, a lot of the peripheral stats, and then we've talked about PFF grades, but everything across the board, I won't say everything, but a lot of the stuff across the board went in the wrong direction last year. But usually the general rule of thumb, without even having to do homework, is if a guy is a free agent in July, there's usually a reason why. That means all 32 teams have said no so far
to formerly the spectacular player.
Right. So it doesn't mean that he can't possibly be a contributing player, but there's obviously a reason. If he were a true commodity in the league, even just a little bit, he wouldn't be a free agent right now on July 10th. He just wouldn't. He would be on a roster with a playbook in his hand and getting ready to go to training camp in a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's suspicious that he's still out there, and then it's even more suspicious when you see something, as I did earlier in the week, from an actual reporter, by the way, that painted this picture as if Simmons is the one taking his time fielding multiple offers. That's the kind of thing that an agent puts out there whenever he's not getting any. You make it sound like you're missing some really hot deal at the supermarket when in fact nobody's shopping there.
Yeah.
Very, very different. Danny Hance says, DK and Chris, did Mike Tomlin diminish the free safety position's impact, or is the question of the day, or is the free safety position just not as impactful as it used to be in the modern NFL?
I don't think it's as impactful as it used to be. And again, with a lot of defenses, not just at the NFL level, but even going down to the college level, are running more coverages that used to not be ran, such as cover 4, which is, again, a zone coverage with man principles, which puts a lot on. You'd rather have 3 corners out there with 1 safety than 2 corners and 2 safeties. You know, and that's why you have a lot. I put it in the Steelers feed on our website on DKPittsburghSports.com, the overall nickel usage in the league. And there's a reason why there are some teams who are in the nickel 80% of the time or 75% of the time. That's because they are running typically more coverages that require more cornerbacks. So there is a much higher emphasis on corner than there is on safety right now.
David does some of the agents' work for him here and says, Simmons said he wants to be on a contender. He's holding out for the right team. He's holding out on the 10th of July. Didn't the same thing
happen? So, like, I don't remember when he signed last year, but it was also later, and he ended up signing with Atlanta. Even when he signed with Atlanta, and I was pretty high on Atlanta last year, but Atlanta to me was like, I was even saying, I thought they were going to go like 10-7 and make the playoffs. But it wasn't going to be anything more than that. I didn't say, NFC Championship or Super Bowl or anything like that. I thought they could have been a playoff team. I thought they could have won their division. They weren't, even whenever he signed. So I don't know if I buy that.
Mike says, DK and Chris, who are the kings of the North right now? The team that all others are measured by. It depends on if you're asking on an official or an unofficial basis. On the official basis, of course, it's the Ravens. On the unofficial basis, of course, it's the Ravens. I mean, what are we talking about here? Yeah. I'm not just saying that because they won. I mean, look at Look at what they've got. Look at the draft that they just had.
Yeah.
Look at the class of people that they have as the cumulative centerpiece of their offense, and look at what those individuals just did to your team. Okay, because it wasn't just Lamar Jackson, it wasn't just Derrick Henry, it was Isaiah Likely, it was Mark Andrews, it was all these guys. They just did damage, and the Steelers did not have an answer for it when last they met.
Yeah. No, the Ravens are absolutely the class of the division right now. They are a very, very well-run organization when it comes to building a football team. It helps a lot when you have a franchise quarterback. Not denying that at all. But also good on them for developing Lamar Jackson, because he was not a finished product coming out of Louisville. So, that is that.
And I don't mean to leave out their defensive guys, in particular Roquan. I mean, they've got players.
Yeah.
Okay, they've got players all over the place.
Yep.
And it's not just our view that the Ravens had a good draft. That's a pretty much universally accepted thing. They went and they got a lot of stuff done. They really did.
They do.
And it's going to be a challenge. Now, that said, they're gonna meet twice this fall. The Steelers are going to win one of those games, and the Ravens are going to win one of those games. They'll both be decided by 3 points. The only difference in anything really is that Justin Tucker won't be around anymore to participate in those endings.
Yeah. No,
that is not how I meant that to come out. Oh, jeez.
Oh, I'm just going to shift from that really quick, but I was just going to say, listen, the Steelers and Ravens, what's the major difference between them right now? Because both organizations have players. Both franchises have players. The Ravens are stronger at certain positions. The Steelers are stronger at other positions. The biggest difference between the two is that the Ravens have a franchise quarterback and the Steelers don't. So if you were to put
you and your Lamarness,
it's just the truth. It's the truth. He is a franchise quarterback. He's one of the five best.
He is. Yeah, he is. Oh no, here they come. You need to massage your ego after that one. You can't give me credit. There's just, that was funny, DK. No, if I said it by accident, it can't be funny, right? I guess it can.
Oh no, it can absolutely be funny.
I just can't take credit for it.
You can take credit for it. It's just a happy accident.
Oh, jeez. Oh, it was happy, right? I see where you're going.
That one was on purpose.
Okay, I see what you're doing here. We're gonna take just a couple more here. And by the way, Tim sounds like he has a radio background. He says, to clarify, the dump button is the button in the radio studio that kills the last 30 seconds before it goes live. We don't have one of those.
No,
I shouldn't tell you that. Freudian slip too. Come on, give me one more good question. Good football question here. You see one, Chris, anywhere?
Oh man, I'm too busy trying to.
All right, since nobody's doing a football one, we're going to end with Levi coming in with another $20 contribution. Ooh. As it relates to the Superman movie and comics. He says, I'm with you on DC, DK. That goes back to early childhood. I mean, I was single digits when I started with DC. I've been a fan ever since the death of Superman saga in the early 90s. Not to brag, but I have a very nice collection of Green Lantern comics. I'm working on the first series now. Levi, you'd have to clarify what you mean by the first series. The first series was back in the 1940s, meaning the original Green Lantern, Alan Scott. I have every Green Lantern from August 1958 on, and almost all of his appearances. The only ones that I'm missing, meaning the real Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, the only ones that I'm missing are in the Silver Age Justice League period, and they're expensive. It's going to cost about $10,000 to finish those off. You collect something, Chris?
Actually, no. I don't really collect, and I really don't. I just never
asked you that. Yeah,
I never got into collecting. I think for a little while as a kid, I collected baseball cards, but that didn't go very far. No, I don't really collect things.
It's funny. There is such a thing. They refer to it as the collector's mentality. That's a really like she's not a collector of anything at all here, and she wonders like why do you really need that? Like you talk about it as if you need it. Like you don't understand. I've got issues 1 through 9, but I'm missing 7, and my life is incomplete. Okay, life.
Yeah,
and it's all I can think about.
Yeah.
So it's we appreciate you, Levi. We appreciate all you guys. When we come back, we're going to take care of a little business here on the Double Shot of Steelers. You know, a lot of people here are bringing up, like, why don't you do like an all comic book show or something like that? First of all, I don't think anybody would want that. I mean, at least very few. It's just you end up being vocal. But then somebody else mentioned, why don't you make it members only? Okay, we're talking here. Even if
you need to pay them to watch it, not the other.
I'm not paying them to watch it.
Yeah, I think that's what happened.
Listen to the cynic here. She's been married to me now as of today 29 years and still just totally begrudges the comic book thing. And the main reason for that is they take up a lot of space.
Have you ever moved an entire collection of comics? Yes.
Lots of white boxes housing lots of Mylar covers and lots of plain white backing boards, baby.
How many comics is it? Do you know?
No, because it's not important to me. I ended up streamlining the volume just to focus on the Hal Jordan appearances. So I even like books that I've read, Superman, Batman, stuff like that from the past, Flash, Wonder Woman, I would just move on from.
Okay.
And trade them in for something that I needed toward my specific collection, which is Hal Jordan appearances. Damon King came in with 5 gifts today. We appreciate that. Brent came in and wished us a happy anniversary today. It is number 29 for us. And yes, she was pretty young. See, that's what you're wondering. For her to be having a 29th anniversary, she was pretty young. How old were you when we married? You were 21. Yeah.
I was pretty young too. My wife and I's anniversary was actually in,
even though you were a month away.
20 days. 20 days will be my wife and I's anniversary.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So right during training camp. Wow.
We didn't do that on I definitely did not get married.
Had that in mind. Yeah.
No, did not. We were also the dumb ones. We were also the dumb ones that got married on July 30th in Texas. Yeah.
For next year's anniversary, we're talking about how we might go back to Romania and Serbia. Romania was where I found her.
Oh my God! Don't put it like that.
I just did, didn't I? So, ordered to be bride.
Seriously, I still control the buttons here. I can turn you off anytime.
She can also put like horns on my head here, or things like that here. Tim came in as a new member. CJ dropped $5 on us here. Thomas came in with 1. Levi did a 20 early on and then a 20 late because he just could not resist the comic book conversation that we were having. And we'll talk about having a non-sports member show someday, just kind of, separate these things for everybody else. Fishing for Trout, I missed early on, came in with 5 gifts. Been with us forever. Great friend to this channel. Cody with 1, Carrie always with 1. Cody just kept commenting. He was like, "Oh man, I'm just gonna keep doing this." And the last word for the day comes from DV, who says, "Is Cam's number 97 an instant non-reissue after he retires?" I would say yes. It's tough to give out 97.
I would think so. I try to think of some other like great, but I mean James Harrison's 92 has been given out.
It has, but James isn't. No, with all due respect.
No.
Okay.
I would think no, it would not be reissued. I would think he'd be closer to the other numbers that are not reissued as well. But
then we say that, and he gave out Marquise's number to Kendrick Green as soon as Green showed up at the door.
No
joke. I don't know what else to say about that one.
And Heath Miller's 83 has been given out too. So
I think there's bigger names than those who've had reissued. I mean, you're talking about Swan and Stallworth. Both of whom. I mean, those are to me are much bigger than Debo and Heath and so forth. For that matter,
I kind of understood those being those consistently being given out after they left because for the longest time receivers were not allowed to wear anything other than
88. Yeah.
So that's like 10 numbers, and then you're also sharing those with the tight ends, so it's hard to do that. But then whenever receivers were allowed to start wearing 10 to 19, and now that receivers can wear any number, I would probably think twice about giving out 82 and 88. Well, obviously.
What's Jonnu Smith's number?
Well, he was 9 with the Dolphins.
That's why I'm asking, because you're going to have this enormous human wearing 9 at tight end, and you're going to have this enormous human wearing 4.
Well,
wide receiver. No,
Chris Boswell's wearing 9, and that's one thing for a punter to give away a number. It's another
thing for Boz. Yeah,
the first team All-Pro kicker.
And Boz is very much the type where he'd want to either negotiate on it or say,
I don't.
It's a strong-willed young man.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't think Johnny was getting 9. I don't. Wow, I have to look and see what he wore at other stops, but I don't think he's wearing 9.
Good stuff. We can talk about more of this tomorrow if you guys want to. We'll be back tomorrow with a week-ending show here. See you all then.